Okay, so good evening, everyone. This is me, Dr. Sam, and this is A230A, and this is the summer semester, and this is our fifth class, right? We've been together for the past 2 weeks. It was all about the Elizabethan age. We spoke also about the Renaissance. We also spoke about the Middle Ages and the different influences, the different ideologies and ideas. We said that you cannot really appreciate um, a piece of work, a work of art, unless and until you fully engage with the background, whether it's any social, economic, political, even cultural and religious. And this is what we've been talking about over the past 2 weeks. Again, we have seen Othello representing the Elizabethan age and the spirit of the Renaissance. We're no longer talking about religion. Religion is there, of course, but it's not at the center of attention anymore. Um, what we're having is a focus on society, focus on the different norms of society, traditions, and governance, hierarchies of all sort, whether those hierarchies are hierarchies of color, race, rank, and whether people follow and conform to those hierarchies or they flout them. And obviously, flouting them and challenging them is not without uh, um, dire consequences, as we have seen. Remember, at the time, um, the the dramatic form of choice was tragedy, and tragedy comes in different shapes and forms. In Othello, for example, we have a tragedy, a domestic tragedy, and we also have some kind of revenge tragedy. And we said that revenge tragedy was all over the place during the time. We did what we did with Othello, spoke about the different challenges that Othello, the character, poses to the uh, social fabric and the political fabric, even given the fact that he does not belong. We spoke about what went wrong in terms of society or societal norms. And we spoke about the fact that the wheel has to come full circle in terms of reversing back to the old established order and system where people have to respect their positions and ranks and races, and they have to stick to where they were born in terms of rank, in terms of color and race. And the message was clear. You follow the traditions, you're safe with us. You challenge the traditions, you have to face the music and kind of uh, receive what you give in terms of retribution, divine. I wouldn't call this divine retribution because there was nothing divine about it. I mean, it's a societal retribution, society taking revenge of those who challenge its norms. And then we shifted gears and moved to another representative play, which is The Duchess of Malfi, where most of the ideas that we spoke about in the Elizabethan age apply. We talk about established order. We talked about hierarchies. But perhaps the focus this time around is on hierarchies of rank, where we also have any kind of levels and some kind of cosmology, civil cosmology, if you like, where you have the king or the queen on top, and then you have the nobles, the princes, down to the common man or common people. And again, we see that some people on this hierarchy are trying to challenge this established order. Again, who does that? It's the queen or the duchess herself. What does she do? She wants to get married, and when she decides to get married, she doesn't marry from within her own ranks. She doesn't marry like a king or a duke or a prince. She wants to get married to Antonio, who happens to be a steward and one of her assistants. Again, Antonio is low born, and by doing that, of course, the Duchess is challenging the established order, and she will not get away with it, I promise you. That's why we're saying it's a tragedy. That's why we're saying it is a revenge tragedy, because obviously her two brothers are going to take revenge from her. And then Busola is going to take revenge for her. He's going to kill her and then take revenge for her. Very ironic. And because of the sheer volume of blood that we're seeing, it's rightly called a revenge tragedy. Um, Again, we are building a number of profiles in the play. Profiles for most of the characters. It's not about those profiles, and I mean, the play is not as much about those profiles as it is about who creates those profiles. Most of those profiles are created by Antonio, and this is very significant, like I told you the other day. Again, of all the characters, Antonio stands out as smart, as politically savvy, as wise, right? Remember that? And this is, like I said, this is for very good reason. So when we get to know towards perhaps the middle of the play that he was chosen. Actually, he was chosen. He didn't choose. He couldn't afford to choose, of course. He was chosen to be the husband of the Duchess. We don't get surprised. Of course, there is going to be a measure of surprise, but it's not as intense and as deep as we have seen with Othello, for example. Again, because we're being prepared all through for this. Prepared how? Prepared by having Antonio moving here and there, communicating a sense of smartness and intelligence, communicating ease with describing things and calling them what they really are, judging and making assessments of the brothers of the Duchess, and being right about his description of them, being right about their true intentions, being right about Busola, and all the other characters. So again, the profiles that we're having are not important in and of themselves. Their importance comes from the fact that those profiles were built by none other than Antonio. So that goes in the middle of the play when we got to know that he is married to the Duchess and she's so high and he's so low. We say, yeah, it's not about legacy and it's not about inheritance. You can work your way up. You can earn merit. You can be, so this is merit, not inheritance anymore. And this is a shift, as a matter, a paradigm shift in the thinking of the time. And again, because for so long, the social system was based on this idea of inheritance and legacy. Um, so you get married to um, people from within your rank, and there is no mixing. If you are high and somebody is born low, the one who is born low cannot be allowed to be ambitious enough and aspiring enough to go up like we're doing now. Some people can come from a poor background, but through his and her, uh, um, hard work and diligence, they can make it big and they become different. According to the system of the time, this is a highly stratified society where levels should be respected, where hierarchies should be respected. And it's your destiny. If you're born poor, so there is no way you can redeem that. There is no way you can improve yourself. And even if you could amass money and collect money, there are social limits. You can have all the money there are, but still you have to stick to your caste. You have to stick to your class. Be rich all you want. Be Become a scientist all you want, like Dr. Faustus, but know your limitations. Again, what happens if you don't know your limitations? If you go beyond your limits, you only have yourself to blame. You'll be met with social agents that are going to make your life a living hell. And this is exactly what happened with Antonio and the Duchess herself. So this is basically what we have been engaged in over the past week, because we started the Duchess of Malfi last week. Let me share the slides, and we are on our way. Again, this is perhaps where we stopped. Again, again, we spoke about all of that. We spoke about the Duchess and how um, how Antonio is describing her, very, of course, religiously, very lovingly, um, and that we said that these are the descriptions of somebody who is in love. He Perhaps he was in love with her, but of course he couldn't kind of um, talk to her about this kind of love, or even dare to think about it, because he knows his place. And what happens if he perhaps goes and tells her about it? Obviously, uh, because he doesn't know her intentions, what he knows for a fact is that he can be hanged for it. He can be executed. Again, when he was given the opportunity to talk about her, he reveals how deeply he admires her. And remember, at one point, he was very hyperbolic and exaggerating in saying that looking at her, and if you're paralyzed, that can be can cure you, and this is obviously very hyperbolic. So love and marriage, gender confusion, and gender confusion is that, of course, you know what a gender is. You have males and you have females. Gender confusion happens when the male uh, does things that you expect of a female, and the female does something that you expect of a male. Is this happening in the play? Absolutely. Over time, and as you proceed and you read the play, you're going to find that the Duchess, who is female, of course, is taking matters into her own hands. You're going to find that she is the one who is defending this kind of love and this kind of marriage. And, Antonio doesn't scare you. whenever you don't find him when you really need them. Uh, so this gender confusion is caused by, genders playing roles that you're not expecting them to play. Again, the Duchess is all manly in her attitude, manly in the sense that she is taking matters into her own hands. She is effecting changes. She is doing everything. Again, the confusion comes from the fact that Antonio, who is male, is not acting very manly. He leaves everything. So the staging of the courtship stresses how much this marriage turns conventional gender roles on their heads. So whatever that means, there is going to be space and time where the Duchess is going to be the one who is courting Antonio. Courting him means saying that I love you and I want to be with you. You normally expect the male who approaches his lady love and talk about those matters. So the courtship here is happening because it's the Duchess who is starting and initiating it. And obviously, this is out of keeping with traditional gender roles, where we're expecting the man to take the initiative, not the woman. So not only does the Duchess instigate the wooing, it is she who places the ring on Antonio's finger, and when he kneels in response, she raises him up again. What do you think of this? This is quite unconventional to see a woman placing the marriage ring or the engagement ring on the male's finger. What do you think of that? So obviously this is
That's
a
unordinary.
yeah, this is quite unordinary. This is quite unconventional. This is a reversal of gender roles as we know them. So visually, this underscores her powerful position. And obviously, Webster here is using dramatic irony, which strengthens our sense of and intensifies our awareness of Antonio's inferior positions. Again, Webster makes it clear that for Antonio, and his part of the attraction of the Duchess proposal is the self-advancement is problem. I'm not sure that this is perhaps undermining the amount of love that he has for. According to one critic, this is part of the allure that the fact that there is going to be self-advancement. So his initial response when she gives him her wedding ring and her amorous intentions become clear. There is a saucy and ambitious devil is dancing in this circle. So the metaphor of the wedding ring as a magic circle inside of which a saucy and ambitious devil is dancing conveys not only Antonio's desire for upward social mobility, but also his conviction that that desire is a danger. I mean, he knows that this is very dangerous. He is getting married to none other than the queen of the land, and obviously he knows that her brothers are against it. So he thinks that he this is shaky ground. This is very dangerous. Again, remember what Antonio has been doing all through, which gives us this sense that he was in love with her, which gives us this sense that he is um, quite a match for her, given the fact that he is intelligent, he's smart, and all those kinds. Again, we're stressing the fact that he is also frightened of the Duchess brothers. Um, and yeah, as normal human beings, we can appreciate what he goes through. Given the fact that we have heard both Ferdinand and the Cardinal make thinly veiled threats to their sister, and the language that they were using, talking about this idea of secrecy, and the fact that unless she um, you know gets married to people that or someone who that they approve, this is going to be unauthorized second marriage, and again it's going to be met with severe punishments. And Ferdinand aptly says such weddings may more properly be said to be executed than celebrated. Again, there is this play on the word executed, which means that the people involved will be killed and executed. And the cardinal would add the marriage night is entrance into some prison. Again, the association with execution and prison are very clear. They are hinting at the fact that getting married to the wrong guy is treading uncharted uh, territory, and it can only lead to death and destruction. Again, it's love mixed with death, as you can see. Again, this is perhaps a subtle reference to the fact that we are in for death and destruction. Again, you would think of all these things and you would think of how the Duchess reacts to all of that. She's very defiant. Again, we have all heard what Ferdinand and Cardinal are saying, and the threats that they are making. But she is all the more adamant about getting married to the one she chooses and loves. She dismisses them and their threats with withering contempt, saying, if all my royal kindred lay in my way unto this marriage, I would make them my low foot steps. She's trying to say, yeah, oppose this kind of marriage all you like, but and if you kind of stand in my way, I'm going to make of you the steps that I'm going to climb and take so that I can reach this kind of marriage. Again, this is very daring and this is very dangerous too. She acknowledges the problem. She knows that she is in for battles, but she's determined to use it to her advantage, just as men in battle sometimes do, facing danger and thereby transforming their fear into courage and valor. This is what she's saying. It is true that there can be obstacles. It is true that we can have great battles, but I'm going to kind of use that to perhaps prove my courage and valor. So as you can see, referring to battles makes us, alert to the fact that the Duchess is entering into a masculine world of military heroism, um, which she has heard about. Obviously, she was not part of any battle. Uh, it is true that her gender would exclude her from this military world, but her what she does is obviously involving that, together with the fact that she is the queen of the land, and that and her high rank would connect her to it. Again, it's very clear that Antonio is worried, and at one point he would remind her that she has brothers who are opposing it. He asks, "But for your brothers?" And she replies, "Do not think of them. All discord without this circumference is only to be pitied and not feared." She's telling them, I want you to pity them, not fear them. They are despicable, and I know how to handle them, and you shouldn't be fearing them under any circumstances. Again, you would expect this to come from the male, not the female. Again, this is gender confusion and a reversal of gender roles. So as you can see, typically you would expect the husband to reassure his wife. But again, because it's a reversal of gender roles, you can see the Duchess seeking to reassure her husband, who constantly feels helpless and overwhelmed by the course of events. Again, even Antonio realizes that what he is doing is out of keeping with traditional gender roles. Uh, Antonio seems to recognize the gender confusion when he says to his new wife, "These words should be mine." So, again, what we are in for is a cross class marriage. Again, we're talking about two different people coming from two different classes. Again, we have, yeah, challenge of lots of things, challenge of gender roles, challenge of traditional relationships, challenge of class fixity. Again, this is all about this idea of reinforcing, the Duchess' position and her self-determination and her greatness. Um, Again, in order to perhaps um, tell us how other people think of this kind of marriage, and they are from perhaps within the circle of the Duchess, somebody who works for her and knows her in and out. We have Cruella, her maidservant, and she was given the opportunity to talk and reflect on this kind of marriage. And she says, whether the spirit of greatness or of woman reign most in her, I know not, but it shows a fearful madness. I owe her much of pity. She's saying that I don't know whether this is greatness and this is daring and very courageousness, or perhaps the woman in her is motivating her to do what she's doing. I don't know. I don't really know. What I know is that we are in for mad. This is madness. And it's very fearful. I'm very scared, and it's the whole atmosphere is scary. Again, because of this idea that they don't belong under any circumstances. He is low and she is high. So she is, I don't know what she's thinking of and what she's trying to achieve. What I know for a fact that this is madness that we all should fear. And in this sense, because it's madness and it's fearful, I feel pity for her. I'm I feel very sympathetic towards her. I don't know where she is going and headed with that. So Criolla, as you see, is uncertain whether to see the Duchess bed for self-determination as evidence of her greatness of spirit or her feminine willfulness. Again, speaking about those daring initiatives that the Duchess is taking, which is quite unheard of during her time. We have a critic by the name of Wigham referring to the Duchess as a cultural voyager who arrogates to herself a new role, that of female hero. Obviously, he's talking in very positive terms about the Duchess. He is trying to say that she is kind of navigating the complexities of life, of the culture of her time. And in this sense, she is a cultural voyager, moving from one level of society and reaching out to another level of society. And this is navigation, and this is voyaging, a metaphorical voyage, where the Duchess is obviously challenging all the known norms of her time. And in this sense, she is a hero. She is a female hero. So as you can see, the Duchess is moving knowingly into uncharted waters. She's moving beyond the bounds of socially accepted behavior, where there will be no clear path to guide her. Obviously, we're talking about somebody who is obviously doing something for the first time. We haven't heard in the literature of a woman challenging her traditions, her family, I mean, everything, and going against the good advice of everyone and get married to somebody who is way low in rank. So obviously, we don't have prior models. Can I ask you to mute your mic, Malish? So it is the absence of models to imitate that she identifies herself with the notion of masculine heroism, which is obviously, this is of course, is so integral to uh, uh, the whole thing. Again, Coriola is uncertain how to describe an aristocratic woman who is flouting the requirements of her rank and gender. And this is obviously the end of Act 1, where we have seen lots of um, talk about, places on the hierarchy, where there was a lot of talk about women and how they are looked at and how they are perceived by the male-dominated society of the time. Again, um, one very important aspect of Act 1 was the idea that we have been prepared uh, 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 for the bombshell later in the play when we get to know that the Duchess and Antonio are getting married. Again, the bombshell is that Antonio is low-born and the Duchess is a Duchess, uh, uh, is high on the ladder, the social ladder. So for them to marry, there has to be a reason or there has to be some level of compatibility. So this level of compatibility does not come from having Antonio being, for example, um, sharing the same rank or what or that. No, he is low-born, but he through merit, through working hard, he is obviously winning our hearts and minds so that when we know that he is married to the Duchess, we say, yeah, he deserves it. He earned his love and respect because of his smartness, his diligence, his uh, um, hard work, and all those kinds of things. And then we move to Act 2, where obviously there is going to be this idea of discovery, which is typical of tragedies. So obviously, the discovery here is a reference to the fact that Busola is going to know that the Duchess is already married, and he over time is going to also know that she is married to Antonio. Of course, he's going to take uh, these news and or this yeah, these pieces of news and go to the brothers. Okay, so 9 months elapsed between acts 1 and 2, and the second act, the bulk or most of the second act is taken up with Busola's attempt to determine whether or not the Duchess is pregnant. This is actually what he is kind of commissioned to do, to spy on her so that he gets to know at one point that whether she's married or not and whether she is subsequently pregnant or not. So at the close of Act 2, Scene 2, we hear that she has given birth to a son. Again, as you can see, having a son is obviously a reference to her role as a wife and as a mother. Again, they are very keen on keeping the birth of the child a secret. Will they? Will they succeed? Obviously not. No, but because by the end of the act, Ferdinand and the Cardinal will receive a letter from the Solar informing them of the birth of the Duchess's son. Again, let's see the reaction of the two brothers. So you have Ferdinand, who is going to be very furious and is going to change color and is going to, I mean, his anger is going to be so big and so, yeah, you cannot really describe why he feels the way he does. After all, she got married. And if you compare how Ferdinand reacts to how the Cardinal reacts, there is going to be a huge difference. Because the Cardinal, it is true that he is angry, but at one point he's going to be shocked by his brother's ravings and reaction. So both brothers are clearly angry at the news. Again, they are so disturbed by the prospect that she's not marrying the right guy, talking about levels and ranks. And all through, they are going to give in to their misogynist commonplaces. Misogynist is woman hating, like I told you. So they're going to give us all types of stereotypes about women. However, Ferdinand's anger seems to be very different in kind from the Cardinal's. The Cardinal is shocked by his brother's ravings, as any member of the audience, and his alarmed responses confirm that Ferdinand's attitude to the Duchess is obsessive and pathologic. I mean, the Cardinal himself is confused. Why is my brother acting this way? After all, she got married. Yeah, yeah, we are angry, we are everything, but this guy, Ferdinand, is acting very weird. Again, the anger of Ferdinand would remind us of what he said at one point in Act 1 about what may happen if his sister gets married. He tells Busola that he would not have her marry again. Again, what happens if she marries? So it means that there is going to be consequences. So this blanket hostility to a second marriage goes beyond anything voiced by the Cardinal, who is much more concerned about the prospect of an inappropriate union. So obviously, we are so stunned at the reaction of Ferdinand. We don't really know. We're so curious about his motives. And that would give us a glance of how turbulent and unstable his character is. Again, he dwindles, Ferdinand, I mean, because of his anger, he starts to use animal language, a language that is compulsively sexual. Again, there is this idea of going downward in terms of humanity, in terms of respectability. The Ferdinand is going down in everything. He is so eaten up by anger. He loses control. He cannot stop himself from visualizing the Duchess in the shameful act of sin. Very strange, because he's talking about a married lady. So from what we see, we can gather, we were under the impression that Busola is the main or the principal villain, but Again, over time, we're going to realize that Ferdinand is the real villain. But of course, he is very profound and very philosophical. So as you can see, Ferdinand is described or characterized as a man in the grip of unconscious and taboo erotic longings, meshing with a modern conception of the instability and irreducible complexity of the human personality. And this is the end of this chapter. We're moving on to another chapter. So the chapter that we're doing now is the tragedy of the Duchess of Malfi, and the title is Tragic Conflict. So do we have a conflict? Yeah, absolutely. Is it tragic? Absolutely. So if we talk about conflicts, and obviously when you talk about a conflict, that would entail sides, that you have more than one side. So how many sides do we have in this conflict? Obviously two. So let's talk about who is with whom. Two sides to a conflict. Who do we have on one side and who do we have on the other side? I'm asking you. Hmm. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So again, I'm asking you a question about, we're saying that the part that we're doing now is about a tragic, we're saying that the play is in for a tragic conflict. So the word conflict entails two sides or two parties. Who are those two parties or two sides? On one side we have
The
whom, and
Duchess?
on the other side, أنا عاوز كلام كبير, كلام يعني I need full sentences, not only one word. Two sides or two parties. Okay, on one side we have whom, and on the other side we have whom.
I think
Munira.
on one side is the okay.
Okay, that's fine. Go on.
Uh, okay, go on, Hanin.
Okay, I thought maybe the one side is the Duchess, and the second side, the other side, the opposed side is the her family or the people who are against the idea of her marriage.
Okay. Right. Okay, Munira.
Uh, side one, her brothers, they are against her marriage, and the other side, the society, who in the first place deny this whole idea.
لا, ما المفروض society should be on the side on the side. I mean, you have put her brothers on one side, so society and its norms would be on the same side. On the other side, you would have the Duchess, like Hanin said. You would also have Antonio, right? So these are the two sides that we're talking about. So, and also it's a conflict and a clash of ideas. Traditional ideas where you have to stick to your place, you have to follow the rules of engagement in your society. And on the other side, you have liberal ideas of, getting married out of love, getting married. You can work your way up even if you are lowborn, and you can become something. You can earn the love of somebody. You don't have to be of a big family. Or so these are ideas that are clashing together as we proceed. So that would lead, of course, to bloodshed. That's why we're saying that this kind of conflict is tragic, because it will lead to people killing each other and all those kinds of things. So the conflict that we started in Acts 1 and 2 intensifies in Acts 3 and 2, 5, as the play's tragic conventions take center stage. Again, we're tilting more towards death than love. Love was before. Now we're talking about the consequences of this kind of um, forbidden love, if you like. Forbidden not because it's illicit or something, but because how society sees this kind of love, which is not based on um, equality. I mean, you have one side being high and you have the other being low. Again, we have this is a very important stage in any tragedy. Spoke about discovery and what discovery leads to. We have this reversal of fortune where people who are obviously happy and everything are going to, we're moving from fortune to misfortune. Again, we're starting Act 3 with this kind of conversation between Antonio and Delio. Um, Again, through their conversation, we get to know that a considerable amount of time has elapsed. Again, since Ferdinand took or pledged and promised that he will take revenge. And that would be enough time for the Duchess to give birth to more children, a son and a daughter. Again, what we're seeing here is a reference to the fact that Ferdinand is coming back to the Duchess court. And of course, he's going to face the Duchess. Um, again, there is going to be room for Ferdinand and Bissola to talk alone on the stage. Again, Ferdinand is revealing what kind of person he has become, his real state of mind. He is obviously adamant about forcing confession from the Duchess. Again, he asks Bussola for a key to the Duchess' bedchamber. What do you think of this? Is that right? Fernand is asking for a key to the Duchess' bedroom or bedchamber. Is that correct? Obviously, no.
No.
Of course. I mean, and again, obviously, bedrooms are the most private rooms in the house. Nobody can have access to a bedroom, right? So the fact that he's asking for a key to the bedroom, not any place in obviously the palace. This is dwindling. This is going down. Okay, so Ferdinand, who is obviously royalty, he is of noble blood. He is the brother of the Duchess or the Queen, is going down. Every time we meet him from now on, he is going to go down in our eyes because of what he does. Again, he is motivated by this pathological anger. He cannot find it in his heart to forgive his sister for what she did. Again, the idea that she's getting married, this is number one, and she's getting married to the wrong. So he wants to go and force her to confess, to say that she got married. And of course, in the process, he wants her to reveal the identity of her husband. Again, instead of going straight away and facing her and talking to her in her face, he's going to ask to go secretly to her bedroom. This is not the manners of a good, well-mannered individual, right? And again, you don't know what he is up to. We, as members of the audience, because we love and like the Duchess, we may feel fearful. We're scared of the prospect that he may kill her. So this is building suspense, obviously. So where are we now? We are in the Duchess chamber. And again, we get to know that Ferdinand is waiting in the wings, perhaps behind the curtains or something. Again, this is generating suspense. Again, we feel as members of the audience that there is a threat. Ironically, we all know that there is a threat. The only person who is oblivious and mindless of that is the Duchess. What do we see here? We see the Duchess and Antonio. I mean, obviously, they are a man and his wife, and they are cracking jokes and, kind of happy and everything. Then, of course, this is going to come to an end later. Antonio and Criolla are going to go out, and that it is at this moment that Ferdinand will enter. Again, I would like you to imagine that where you have the Duchess perhaps sitting at the dressing uh, table, or I don't know what they call it, and she's obviously perhaps preparing for bed. She's so innocent, she doesn't know what is happening, and you have somebody in the background, so you would feel very scared, you yourself, and you would also feel that she is very isolated and she's very vulnerable. And then we have this kind of informal banter exchange between the two, where, as you can see, or we will see, that Ferdinand dominates the proceedings. He does the talking, speaking the majority of lines, and twice ordering his sister to be silent. Again, whatever he says still makes sense. You can feel that he is okay, but he is obviously using a language that he shouldn't use. Again, another sign that he is also, when he started to ask rhetorical questions that you wouldn't expect an answer to, like, virtue, where art thou hid? Virtue, where are you hiding? Obviously, he is referring to the fact that his sister got married as lack of virtue. He said, you're ashamed, you should be ashamed of yourself. Um, Again, his tone is that of a self-righteous individual. Again, it starts to turn into overtly violent reproaches. Die then quickly, and the howling of a wolf is music to the screech owl. Die then, he's telling her, go and kill yourself, perhaps, quickly. And he is going to invoke images of animals, and those animals are perhaps the most base and the the worst when it comes to animals, whether we're talking about wolves or owls. So the last quotation shows his habitual fondness for likening human beings to the most negative aspects of the animal world. And then he addresses his speech to, of course, Antonio is not there, but he is talking to and addressing the assumed husband. He says, such violent effects as would damn us both. He says that we are all in for damnation. So we are all going to die. Of course, he's alienating his sister. Um, Again, whatever he says and whatever language he uses would perhaps reflect the moral and the psychological complexity that he is known for. Again, he leaves the stage not knowing who the Duchess' husband is. But he threatens again that she is undone or ruined, and he did that twice. And the fact that he will never see her again. And this is very prophetic and very anticipatory of what he intends to do. He is not going to see her again alive because he's going to order her murder and her killing. Again, the Duchess does not stay silent. And this is obviously what we know about her. She's going to start to react to what her brother Ferdinand is saying, and she's going to meet his anger with, some kind of what grace, elegance, quietness, and also eloquence. She meets Ferdinand's anger with clear, straightforward statements and questions. I pray, sir, hear me. I am married, and will you see my husband? She's telling him, please, please, hear me out. I am married. I'm married means I'm not, this is a legal relationship. This is marriage, mind you. I'm not doing something wrong. And come and see my husband. Why don't you come and see my husband? I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm a married woman. And she started to tell him, yeah, again, why wouldn't I marry? Why might not I marry? I have not gone about this and this to create any new world or custom. This is very eloquent and this is very powerful. She's telling him, why wouldn't I marry? And in marrying, I didn't create a new world or a new custom because marriage is there, and thousands upon thousands of people marry as we speak. Why are you acting this way? You can look at it and hear it very, it's very powerful. She's saying, why might not I marry? I have not gone about in this to create any new, I haven't created a new world or a new custom by getting married. I'm doing what everybody does every day. So her simplicity of expression captures the irrationality of the brother's prohibition and so invites our sympathy. She's telling him to marry a second time is indeed not to create any new world, no, at all. So obviously you can always contrast what she says and what she does with what her brother is saying and what he is doing. And you can even contrast what she does and what she says with what her husband is doing. Obviously her husband is not doing much, typical of the reversal of roles that we spoke about. When we have this intense confrontation between the Duchess and her brother, you cannot find Antonio, and Antonio only comes when her brother leaves carrying a pistol and making empty threats, of course. Again, you wouldn't compare her this attitude to that of the Duchess. The Duchess, by contrast, has already come up with a plan for dealing with this situation, which she immediately puts into action when Busola turns up on the scene or a few months. She knows that once her brother leaves, he is going to plan something evil and negative. So she started to plan. She started to think of how she can handle this situation. Again, what was the plan that she concocted or that she thought of? She is going to send Antonio and the kids to a place called Anacona under the cover of trumped up charge of embezzlement. She's going to tell everybody that Antonio has escaped or has fled, went away. He ran away because he was accused of stealing money. Again, she's going to say this so that she can allow him to kind of fly away and run away. Um, Again, she does that, and it's very strange that the one who is going to defend Antonio is none other than Busola. Busola is the one who is going to defend Antonio. I mean, there is obviously no love lost between the two of them. They don't like each other, even if they haven't expressed it very clearly. But still, Busola, when he got to know about those charges, he started to defend Antonio, saying, yeah, this is a whim. What the Duchess is doing is a whim in the sense that, yeah, she perhaps woke up on the wrong side of the bed and she decided that Antonio is a thief and everything. And obviously, Busola doesn't know that Antonio is her husband. So he started to defend Antonio, saying, no, it's only that those people in high places cannot be you can never tell what they will do next. If they wake up on the wrong side of the bed, like the expression says, they can do anything. They can change your fortune from happiness to misery. So Busola is left alone on the stage to deliver a soliloquy in which he discloses or he reveals to the audience that he's going to tell Ferdinand everything he has just learned. We don't really know whether Busola is sincere in his defense of Antonio. Again, we would think that he is sincere in the sense that perhaps he's putting himself in the shoes or the position of Antonio. If it happens to Antonio today and he was trusted, perhaps it may happen to him. He can be accused of anything and be imprisoned and even executed. So it is actually, the fear is not fearful, or perhaps he doesn't feel that, he doesn't feel pity for Antonio as much as he feels pity for himself, because he is also at the mercy of those in high places, and they may change color all of a sudden at a whim, and they can harm him. So as you can see, Busola is an ambiguous character. And he is rightly described as the malcontented character that we're so familiar with in Elizabethan tragedies. In Elizabethan tragedies, you have, or especially revenge tragedy, we have the character of the malcontent. The malcontent is a low-born individual who works in court, and he is not happy about the bad practices uh, over there. And so he starts to lash out against people in the royal court. Again, what is perhaps striking is that it is true that he's lashing out at the corruption in the royal court, but he is ready. He wants social advancement. He loses the servility that is the only way to rise in the world. He says that there should be another way of um, achieving social improvement and social advancement other than having to flatter this or that person and being insincere by saying that he is good and he's this and that, when in actual fact you know that he is not. So there is little reason to believe that Busola admires Antonio as much as he says he does in his speech to the Duchess. We know that there is little love lost between the two characters. Again, what is Busola perhaps is angry about is the fact that he has watched a courtly official, lowborn like himself, has been dismissed from his office apparently on the whim of the Duchess and castigated by other officers who yesterday phoned at him. He says that only yesterday, everybody was speaking very highly of Antonio, and today he fell out of favor, and everybody is against him. He says that this is strange.
Doctor,
So, yeah, yes.
could you please repeat what does malcontent character mean?
Malcontent is a character
Yes.
that we always see in revenge tragedies in the Elizabethan age. The malcontented character is one of the characteristics and the features of revenge tragedies, where you have somebody who is low-born, who works in the royal family, in the court. Um, he is witness to so many infringements and instances of corruption. He is given the opportunity to give soliloquies where he is given the chance to go on stage or on the stage alone, and he starts to talk to the audience about what he feels about those people in the court, the royal court. He is not happy about what they do because what they do is not good. There is a great deal of corruption, and there is a great deal of flattery that he is against. Again, what is contradictory about the malcontented character is that he himself is ambitious. He wants social advancement. But for Busola, it shouldn't go through flattery and corruption. He wants merit. He wants to work hard so that he can earn the trust of people and he can get promoted. So in his soliloquy, he characterizes the politician or political schemer as the devil's quilted anvil. And he starts to paint a very negative image of the politicians. He's saying that they are the devil's quilted anvil. And obviously, in the ingenuity of the metaphor is typical of Busola's linguistic flamboyance, and it bespeaks a certain amount of self-congratulations. Again, you people may automatically believe that Busola is another Iago, and obviously this is not a good comparison because Busola is more profound. He is very deep, and I mean, there are chances where you find himself blaming himself for what he did. Um, So Iago never showed any signs of repentance. Okay, it's very, this is the sticking point where you have Busola wants preferment, and he will, for the time being, remain the servant of forces he knows are wicked. So how come you're lashing out against bad people and you are ready to serve those bad and wicked people in order to achieve advancement? Again, this is why we're saying that Busola is complex and his character is very ambiguous. And then we come to what we call the dumb show. The dumb show is another feature of the revenge tragedy. So as you can see, that revenge tragedy has a number of conventions, and one of them was the malcontented character, and the other is the dumb show. What's a dumb show? A dumb show is a parallel show or perhaps play within a play, but this time around it's silent. Dumb means silent, where there is a reenactment of stuff that you wouldn't have on the stage out loud, because at one point you're going to realize that uh, silence uh, can be louder than speaking. When people speak, you know what their intentions are. But if they are silent, if they are uh, 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 using gestures, if they are moving, I mean, obviously the interpretation is going to be up for grabs. Are you getting the idea that silence and moving your body in certain ways and you using your lips in a certain can be more telling, can be more revealing than if you are speaking and giving your intentions straight away. So in Act 3, Scene 4, Ferdinand and the Cardinal learn from Busola the identity of their sister's husband and that her family is seeking sanctuary in the state of Ancona. Again, what we are going to see is that the Cardinal is going to act as he always does. He's going to go and put on his clothes as if he is a soldier who is determined to take revenge and determines to have the family banished. So of course, we're talking about the Duchess and her family. Again, this is funny because, I mean, the Cardinal is portrayed in a very sarcastic way, as if he's returning to soldiership. And again, he's taking obviously soldiership over whom? Over a small family. And obviously, they are helpless. It's as if we're saying that he is proving his masculinity, his soldiership with the wrong people because they are a small family. So what we see here is a dumb show, a performance employing gestures and body movements without words. Again, we said that it can be more telling than having people speak. So by removing speech and focusing instead on mimed action, the dumb show achieves a highly symbolic pictorial style of theatrical representation. So the sky is the limit when it comes to the interpretation. Again, you have to interpret. That's very highly, and it's very symbolic. So because meaning is conveyed through spectacle rather than words, we are distanced from the action. So rather than encouraging us to get caught up in the emotions of the characters, the visual tableau asks us instead to step back and evaluate the moral implications of what is happening. Again, one big reason we have this mind dumb show is the idea that the author is trying to create a distance. He has seen that we are so involved in what is happening. We are so enmeshed in what is happening. He wants to create a distance between us and the character. We shouldn't be too much involved in what is happening. That's why we don't have people talk in the dump show. Again, where is this happening? It is happening in a religious shrine. And again, because it's a show, we have music that is solemn, serious, and sung by a group of churchmen. Again, this is all symbolic, and it is again meant to run parallel to the actual play. So this gives vivid visual confirmation of the superficiality of the cardinal's religious vocation and the ecclesiastical corruption he has constantly represented. Again, there is going to be talk also about the wedding ring when the brother removes from his sister's finger with violence. So what we see in the dumb show is a dialogue between two pilgrims. Again, they talk about this noble ceremony, and they end in a state of some distress, exchanging anxious questions and judgments about the ceremonies they have just witnessed. So you have two pilgrims in this shrine, and this is all made up. This is all part of the dumb show. And those two pilgrims are like members of a chorus, and they comment on what is happening. It is true that they don't clearly kind of acquit the Duchess of what she did. They believe that she shouldn't have done what she did. I mean, getting married to the wrong person, referring to Antonio as mean a person, but they still believe that she shouldn't have been treated this way because she is a free prince, and she shouldn't be treated this way. Again, those two pilgrims don't have names. They lack individuality because this can be or this can establish a physical bond with the audience, and again, so that the audience can believe them. So the Pilgrim's commentary invites us to grasp the moral and political significance of the Duchess's banishment rather than her own experience of it. So it presents her and her family as the victims of institutional conspiracy. So let's look at the devices that have been used so far. Some of those devices are modern, and some of them are, old. The modern device would be the idea of having realistic characters, having realistic theme. So here Webster insists on the complexity of his characters' personalities, and again he has this attempt to involve us in the dramatic action, and he wants the action to unfold on stage through the creation of suspense. This is the modern device. The medieval device would be the use of the dumb show in Scene 4, which is meant to distance us from the action unfolding on stage in order to promote our understanding of the larger meanings being conveyed. Again, here there is a chance for us to perhaps to dwell more on early modern tragedies and what they are like. Again, those tragedies have their own conventions, have their own features. So again, at the core of those tragedies, we have torture and death. And this is what we have, or what we're seeing with the Duchess in Act 4, where we're seeing, and there is this enactment of the Duchess torture and death, and the punishment meted out to her for her forbidden love and marriage. What do we see as part of the early modern traditions of tragedy? We're seeing her imprisoned in her palace. She is exposed to a dead man's hand, complete with wedding ring, a wax tableau of her husband and children presented to her as their dead bodies, and finally a dance of madmen. So again, as you can see, we can see the Duchess suffering and torment being staged on the stage, which is typical, which is something that we're used to during the Renaissance, because Renaissance tragedies and revenge tragedies were like that. And there is talk about pioneers in the field. We have Thomas Kidd, for example, who wrote the Spanish tragedy, a very famous tragedy. Again, where we have revenge taking place on stage. Uh, Again, within the play, that is always part of that. Again, together with the Spanish tragedy, we have other tragedies that perhaps Webster was, um, um, kind of imitating. So Webster is under the influence of those kinds of tragedies where you have all the features present. We have Webster has his revenger villain, stage a play for his victim, complete with props. This is one. We have the dead man's hand, which is a feature of the time. We have the wax effigies of Antonio and the children. This is another. And you have on stage entertainment by madmen. These are all typical of the tragedies or the revenge tragedies of the time. Again, there is also reference to Ferdinand at this time, at this point in time, and how he is also showing signs of lunacy and madness. So, revenge tragedies normally take the form of a theatrical spectacle, a play within a play, which what we have seen in the palace of the Duchess before she dies. Um, so Ferdinand is putting on a play for his sister that he pretends is reality, not theater. Um, Again, what he is doing, he is trying to convince his sister that his family are all killed and that and they are corpses, when in actual fact they are effigies. Again, as you can see, Ferdinand is using the stage as a tool of control. It shows us that his aristocratic villain, Ferdinand, uses theater as an instrument of control. Again, we come to a very important part in the play. We're still in Act 4, where there is a great deal of torture. And obviously, the one who is receiving this kind of torture is the Duchess. Um, Again, we're given the opportunity to see how the Duchess is enduring her torments and how she is meeting her death with so much courage and dignity. You need to remember this, that she is very noble in her death, because you're going to compare her death to the death of other characters, and how base and how uh, meaningless and degraded their death were if you compare her. So she was noble even in her death. Again, this is a chance where, uh, uh, you know, Webster is showing um, the different aspects of the character of the Duchess, how she accepts death, her belief that in the hereafter she's going to meet with her loved ones. That's why she's not afraid of death. She knows that she will be reunited with Antonio and the kids. Obviously, she's under the impression that they are killed, because this is what Ferdinand was staged for her. Again, in the tropes of death while dying, she is also clinging to life, telling everybody that I'm Duchess of Malfi, still reinforcing her pride as a royalty, as as a queen. Um, Even Bussola himself, who is masterminding her death, is when he goes on the stage and he is having those tools that he's going to use to kill her, he is asking her, does not death frighten you? Aren't you afraid of death? Death? And she masters confidence. And she would say, who would be afraid on it, knowing to meet such excellent company? And the other, she's saying, no, I'm not afraid of that. I'm going to meet mm, people that I love. I'm going to be in good company in the hereafter. Again, whatever she says from now on before she dies is very poetic, is very noble, and if anything, it tells us a great deal about her valor, her courage, his strength of character, and her nobility. Again, this is getting very bloody and nasty as we proceed. Um, Again, what is perhaps very striking is that we're seeing this all happening in Act 4. And the Duchess is going to die in Act 4. And this is obviously something that we're not used to. If we're talking about a tragic hero, we expect him or her to die in Act 5, not 4. Again, that would, kind of create a problem for Webster, because he's going to be accused of being a misogynist, of being against women. Otherwise, why would he kill the tragic heroine in Act 4 and not in Act 5? I think I'll stop here, and when we meet tomorrow, I'll finish the rest. I mean, I'll finish Act 5 and then start Candide. But before we go, I would like to leave some space if you guys have any questions. Come to the mic. No questions? Right, okay. So on this note and with this item, we come to the end of today's class, and I'll see you next week, inshallah. No, not next week, tomorrow, inshallah. Sorry. I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليك السلام، شكرا.